The loss of a mother, the loss of a father, the loss of a sister, a brother, a best friend, a close relative is something that hits on a very complex level for immigrants living far away from home. Today I lost my grandmother, the only surviving grandparent that I had left. I'm confused. I'm still processing my emotions, but my mind takes me away from my confusion. It takes me to my father and his siblings. How are they processing this loss, being so far away from home? And when I think about them, I can't also help but think about immigrants everywhere in the world that have had to lose someone very close to them, but they were far away. They couldn't mourn properly. They couldn't mourn with close relatives and friends. I'm not saying that it's only immigrants who face loss in such an intense way. I'm just saying that for immigrants, it's a little bit different. It's layered because they're battling with hopelessness, guilt, and isolation, because some of them may never be able to make it home for the burial ceremony or the funeral. So for today's video, I dedicate it to immigrants all over the world who have lost someone and couldn't make it home because of circumstances beyond their control. And in today's video, I am going to share stories of immigrants who have lost someone very close to them, but they just couldn't make it in time to bid them farewell. Emeka is a Nigerian that moved to Canada 5 years ago. He came to Canada because he wanted to give his family back home a comfortable life. And he has been doing that. He's doing so well, and he's proud of himself. And his family back home is so proud of him. One day on his way back home from work, he got a phone call from his sister. He thought it was just one of those calls. She's probably calling to ask him for money or to check up on him. He picked up and she told him their father just passed away. Immediately, he wanted to buy a ticket, but a last-minute international ticket back home is over 2,000 US dollars, over 2,000 Canadian dollars. And he had to decide what to do. He had rent that was due. He had student loans that he was paying off. He had family that he's taking care of back home. And he's responsible for paying for this funeral. So what does he do? There's only one thing that he could do. Stay back and send money home. And send condolences over the phone and plan a funeral over the phone. And that's exactly what he did. And he watched the burial of his beloved father over a blurry WhatsApp video call. Aisha is a Moroccan who is living in Los Angeles. One day on her way back home from Juma, she had a call from her uncle, her mother's brother, to tell her that her mother had passed away. For her, she could afford the ticket. She had the money to afford the ticket and go home right away. But the only problem was that she was in the middle of her green card process. She cannot leave the country. Leaving the country means she might not be able to re-enter the country. And that is a big risk for her because everybody back home in Morocco depends on her. So like Emeka, she made the hardest decision also. Send her condolences over the phone and cried for a week straight without eating because she couldn't give her mother a last farewell kiss. Mustapha is a Ghanaian that has lived in New York for over 3 decades. One day he gets a call from home telling him that his mother has passed away. Immediately, he booked a ticket, a straight flight from New York to Ghana, which would take him about 9 to 11 hours to get there. And he has to be there for the burial ceremony because, according to tradition, he's the eldest son, and the eldest son has to be there for the burial rites. So he booked the ticket, a straight flight to Ghana, but things happened beyond our circumstances that we can't control. There was a delayed aircraft turnaround, so his flight was delayed and he couldn't make it in time for his mother to be buried with him present. He comes from a Muslim family, and according to Islamic teachings and practices, it is advised to bury your dead ones within 24 hours. So by the time he got home, they'd already buried her and said the prayers for her. He went to the grave to pay his respects and pray for her, but as he stood over the grave and prayed for her, he was overwhelmed by a sense of guilt, because to him it felt like he chose survival over being present. For immigrants, grief is not just about loss, it's about distance, it's about missing final moments, it's about not being present when it truly matters, and having to live with that for the rest of your life. It's about the guilt you feel because you chose survival over presence. So if you know an immigrant who has lost a family member, reach out to them and check on them, because to them, grief is different, it's complex. It's about missing final moments, and it's about saying goodbye over the screen, over a phone call. Thank you for spending time with me, and I hope this video didn't make you sad. I hope it made you understand what it is like for immigrants when they lose someone, and how sometimes it's just very hard for them to grieve in the right way, but there's nothing that they can do because the life in abroad must go on, because people back home are still dependent on them.